This is 5 on your side at 6. Focused on you.
New tonight, eyewitnesses tell us about the terrifying shootout between a gunman and O'Fallon, Missouri police. The incident left the suspect dead after he fired shots at a clock tower and led officers on a chase into a neighborhood. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Kelly Jackson, and Allred has the night off.
And I'm Mike Bush. 5 on your side's Diamond Palmer is live tonight in O'Fallon with new details about the shooting and the suspect. Diamond.
Well, Mike and Kelly, just one day after the shooting, the clock tower behind me still has signs of destruction. And neighbors I spoke to in the Royal Oak subdivision today say they heard at least 8 to 15 gunshots ring out there. And they also say multiple agencies responded to the crime scene, including Wentzville and St. Peter's Police Department. Neighbors in the Royal Oak subdivision never expected to hear police sirens over the weekend.
And shortly afterwards, I saw a red car slowly coming up the street, speed limit, so to speak, followed by at least 3, maybe 4 O'Fallon police officers. Jerry Brown says what's known as a quiet neighborhood quickly changed when he heard gunfire. I'd say 8 to 15. The O'Fallon Police Department identified 34-year-old Douglas Allen Phipps as the suspect who fired shots at City Hall's clock tower around 4:15 Sunday evening. Police say they attempted to stop him on North Main Street, but he led police on a chase to Royal Oak subdivision.
He just drove by and just looked at me and just one-handed wave. I mean, he didn't seem bothered. I mean, he wasn't rushing through here, so I don't know. It seemed like maybe he was just kind of defeated at that point, maybe.
Paige Morales says she was putting up Christmas lights with her children and feared for her safety. Police say the suspect stopped on Spring Court.
My kids were out here, so I told them, I said, go inside, lock the doors because it's a dead-end street. If anything happens, he's going to possibly flee on foot.
Police say when Phipps got out of his car, he was carrying a shotgun and pointed it at officers. Police then say an exchange of gunfire happened and Phipps was pronounced dead on the scene. Morales and Brown call the situation unnerving.
How do we maybe prevent things like that from happening in the future?
I'm sure the police officers did not want to fire. I'm sure they were left with no alternative.
Now, O'Fallon Police Department says no police officers were harmed in this shooting, but they have not yet said if the officers involved in this shooting will face disciplinary actions. Reporting live here in O'Fallon, Diamond Palmer, 5 on your side.
And there was another deadly shooting involving police several hours later in Lake St. Louis. Police say it started yesterday morning when someone reported a man firing shots at Boulevard Park. When officers arrived, the man was gone, but they found several shell casings. They later tracked the suspect down at a house on Fox Bridge Court. When officers arrived, a man walked out of the house with 2 guns. They say the man tried to fire one of the guns during the struggle, so the officer shot him. He died at a hospital. An officer has a minor hand injury.
Investigators say a man who died by what's believed to be suicide at the St. Louis Justice Center was found with a bed sheet around his neck. Javon White was 34 years old. He was being held on first-degree murder charges. Investigators say White did not have a cellmate and was alone when corrections officers found him unconscious in his cell yesterday morning. The director of public safety said White reached out for mental health treatment in September, but was not placed on suicide watch.
St. Louis area leaders held a special violence reduction meeting this morning at the Washington University School of Medicine. Experts presented ideas and solutions working well in other places to help cities crack down on hotspots for violent crime. Our political editor, Mark Maxwell, was there and joins us with new details. Mark.
Yeah, you heard that old quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Crime analysts and experts said that original injustice of violence can quickly spread to surrounding areas, and that ripple effect can cost communities $10 million to $19 million per murder.
When it comes to crime and safety,
I'm just afraid the future of the entire region is at stake.
Local leaders know their reputation is on the line.
The city is the face of the region.
That's why they gathered here.
So we can change that narrative of St. Louis being one of the most dangerous cities or regions in the country to being one of the more safest.
After all, politicians prefer to preside over places people flock to, not flee from.
People living on both coasts that might be thinking of moving a business here, they don't know the difference. They think that this entire region has a crime problem because one part of the city does.
St. Charles County Executive Steve Ellman appeared to question recent crime statistics showing a 20% drop in homicides in the city.
When you bring that forward, you're going to have to show that the numbers are correct, and that we've had several media sources ask questions, I think very good questions. Some have been answered, others haven't.
I don't question the validity of homicide data. Homicide data is generally very accurately reported. You have a fundamental measure, which is the presence or absence of a dead body.
That's Harvard scholar Thomas Abt. He wrote the book Bleeding Out, outlining a bold new plan for peace in the streets. Instead of surging police to high-crime neighborhoods,
The better strategy is to identify the key people in place and places within those regions that are driving the violence.
he suggested governments get more focused on identifying key indicators of why someone might pick up a gun in the first place and dispense with distracting programs.
I just have to be candid. Midnight basketball is a good example of something that sounds great but doesn't do much to reduce violence. And so one of the things that we have to do is we have to be honest with folks about what works and what doesn't work.
Mayor Jones appeared to take much of his message to heart. She said she hopes leaders can leave this conference zeroing in on one or two key takeaways instead of some overwhelming laundry list of vague directives.
Mark, thanks. Well, it's a fight for funding in Congress. Local advocates are pushing for an amendment that would compensate radioactive waste victims in the St. Louis region.
But this amendment could be facing hurdles. Justina Coronel joins us in studio with the latest. What can you tell us about this, Justina?
Just Moms co-founders are keen on a conference call.
Good job.
Listening to every word. Dawn Chapman and Karen Nickel learn the latest.
It's a whirlwind, you know, everything is so overwhelming. It's hard to wait.
Monday morning, Senator Josh Hawley details where the National Defense Authorization Act stands in regards to the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act known as RECA.
It's a program that we need. RECA has to pass for the citizens of Missouri.
Senator Josh Hawley secured an added amendment to the act, which would compensate St. Louisans exposed to radioactive waste.
There's radioactive waste still left in a community that's not going to be cleaned up for another 20-something years, says what it says.
Now it's in negotiations to see if the added amendment will land in the final version.
Well, I think the biggest holdup was the price tag.
$147 billion was the original amount, but Hawley said they slashed it to a few billion.
It's just very hard to listen to somebody talk about a price tag on your life. We deserve to be in this program, you know. We're a very sick community.
The co-founders now make their own call, calling on the community to stay consistent.
The biggest thing is to focus on leadership, focus on Leader McConnell and Speaker Johnson. That's where the decision lies.
We have a very strong, united community. And if this is what it takes to make these calls and reach out to leadership, then that's what we'll do.
Senator Hawley has threatened to stall the entire voting process if RECA is slashed. We're told final votes by Congress are more likely happening before the holidays.